If you are a last minute studier, go ahead and type cram in the comments below. I'm telling you, you definitely give me anxiety. But this video will be perfect for you because I go over 10 effective strategies you can use last minute to boost your SAT score without much studying. Definitely make sure to stick around for number 10. It is my favorite tip of the group. So if you're new to my channel, make sure you hit the subscribe button below. I come out with useful content each week to help you master the SAT. All right, guys, before we get into my 10 tips, this video is brought to you by Preply, the digital SAT prep app that is available in the App Store and in Google Play. Are you running out of questions on College Board's Blue Book exams and Khan Academy? Do you hate having to sit down at your computer and take a full digital SAT test every time you want to practice? Then Preply is perfect for you. Preply is a daily digital SAT practice app with hundreds of exclusive questions in both the English and the math. You can prep where you want, when you want, all from the palm of your hand, since Preply is for mobile devices and for iPads. If you only feel like doing 10 questions that day, that's totally okay. Do a little bit in study hall, or when you're on the bus, or when you're waiting for that friend who is always running late. You guys know what I'm talking about. We all have one of those. Do Preply anytime you're bored, and I'll tell you, your parents will not be upset that you are on your phone. What's great is that Preply categorizes each question by type, so that you can hone in on your individual weaknesses and practice the same question category over and over and over again until you master it. But wait, there's more. Preply has a new digital AI tutor named Whizbee who can answer all your questions about the test. Ask Whizbee questions like, can you give me a strategy for logically completes the text? With Whizbee, your score gains are truly possible. Why pay for an expensive test prep tutor when you have Whizbee at your fingertips? So guys, with the October test right around the corner and the October PSAT also right around the corner, if you need more exclusive, awesome digital SAT prep materials, head to the App Store or Google Play and download Preply today. It will push your score to the finish line on test day. All right, before we get started with my 10 tips, I would also love to know any tips that you have for the YouTube community. What is a last minute tip you're gonna use on the SAT? If it's really awesome, I may actually feature it in an upcoming video. All right, so here's tip number 1, you guys. If you're stuck on a math question, make sure to guess a middle number in the range. Do not pick an outlier. Do not pick a number on the outside. Your odds are way higher of getting the point if you stick with B or C. Tip number 2, use your calculator to check all your computations. Mental math is totally fine, you guys, but if you have a calculator on hand, like for the digital SAT or section 4 of the paper test, make sure you're checking your mental math with the calculator. It's so easy to make a careless mistake, so you need to make sure that you're double and triple checking your numbers. Tip number 3, make sure you write out all of your work, especially on the easy math problems. I know what you're thinking. You're thinking, Laura, it takes too much time to show all my work. Well, guys, would you rather take a little bit of extra time and get the point, or save some time and get it wrong? I have seen too many students from working with them over the years get silly questions wrong, like on the first, page or two, because they didn't show their work. So divide both sides by 10. Subtract 5 on both sides. Do the basic algebra foundations that you learned in math class, especially on those easy problems, because if you underestimate them, you're gonna end up making a careless mistake and getting it wrong. All right, tip number 4, make sure you stick to the 1-minute rule. If you spend too long on any problem, you will run out of time and you will rob yourself of the chance to get more points in the section. So just put it down and come back to it later. You know, if you end up coming back 10 or 15 minutes later, you're going to see the question from a different angle and a different perspective, and you'll have a way better shot of getting it right at that point. Tip number 5 is leave a trail. Make sure, guys, when you do eliminate an answer choice, you cross it off. Because if you do have to go back to it later, you don't want to start over and reinvent the wheel. Tip number 6, make sure to dot questions to come back to. This goes with tip number 5, but if you leave a trail, and actually tip number 4, and you've already been on it for a minute, then just mark it to come back to. Hit the flag on the Blue Book exams or throw a dot next to it on your paper test. And later on, you can go back and revisit it. I do not want you guys going back to every single question you answered on the section with your extra time, because I don't want you changing answers you were confident in to wrong answers. Only go back to the questions you were not 100% confident in, because likely those are the ones you're gonna get wrong, and those are the ones you may wanna change your answers to. Tip number 7, if you are on a math, grid-in, or fill-in question and you're not sure what to do, just put the number 3. I promise you guys, I've seen 3 come up as the right answer more than any other number on the fill-ins. So it's a shot in the dark, but statistically, you'll have a higher chance of getting the point. Tip number 8, if you're running out of time, make sure you Christmas tree D. Christmas tree basically means picking the same letter all the way down your bubble sheet or clicking the same letter all the way through the rest of the module. Because some of the answers will end up being D, it will guarantee you pick up some extra points when you don't have enough time to actually get to all those questions. Tip number 9, this is a big one. I would revisit any past mistakes or misses that you've had on your practices up to this point and remind yourself what went wrong. History repeats itself, you guys, unless you learn from your mistakes. So make sure you understand the pitfalls and the things you did wrong in the past so you don't repeat them again on the October. And finally, tip number 10, which is my favorite tip of the group. This is purely psychological, you guys, but make sure you have a really good practice before you go into the SAT. First of all, statistically, you're gonna score about what you've been scoring on your practices. So if your goal is a 1450 and you have yet to score a 1450 on a practice, you probably will not hit a 1450 on the real test. So make sure you have 1 or 2 really awesome practices where you hit your goal ahead of going into the test, because that will not only boost your confidence, but it will be an indicator that you can actually get that when you go into the real thing. Now, lastly, this is a bonus tip for all of you. Speaking of psychology, and this whole test is really a big mind game. When you guys are stuck on a question, please do not panic, okay? Know that this is a natural part of the test taking process, and when you go into the test that morning, I want you to tell yourself, I am going to get stuck and it's okay. Guys, I'm a test prep coach. I've done this for many years, and when I sit in on a test, I always get stuck at least a couple of times. But it's okay, because it's all about how you handled those moments. Please do not dwell on it, spend too long on the problem, or think about the problem 5 questions in afterwards. It does not benefit you. If you can just dot it to come back to, recognize this is part of the deal, it's no big deal, you are gonna be much better off. And when you go back to it later, you're gonna see it from a different angle. All right, guys, that's it for this video. I hope you found it helpful. If you did, make sure to hit the like button below. And if you made it to the end, comment perfect score, because you are a perfect score in my book. I wish you the best on Saturday, and until then, happy prepping.